Hello everyone, welcome to another video, and in today's video I am going to be talking about mysterious deaths that have happened in Zimbabwe. Okay, but here's something that is peculiar about these mysterious deaths. They are not mysterious deaths concerning ordinary people. They are actually mysterious deaths concerning influential politicians in our beautiful Zimbabwe. So I hope I don't step on anybody's toes, and if I do, I am sorry. I'll get you some eyes, okay? But anyway, yeah, I'm just going to talk about some mysterious deaths that have happened in Zimbabwe and what people said about those mysterious deaths. This is actually, I also might need to point out that there was a time when there were protests in Zimbabwe. I will definitely put up the picture that shows that people were protesting against politicians dying on the roads under accidents, So there was a time when people actually went up in arms to protest, to say, oh no, these accidents are getting out of hand. You cannot be having people dying of accidents all the time. Somebody must explain what is going on, that kind of thing. People were getting too suspicious and people were speculating a lot about these accidents that were happening to the politicians. But I'm going to talk about a number of politicians that have gone the same way. The likes of Sororo Duri, Moven Mahachi, Elliot Manyika, Gezi, the likes of Christopher Ushewa Kunze, the likes of Solomon Mujuru. Those who have died under very mysterious conditions. And also we're going to talk about Josiah Tongogara. We are going to talk about who else? Herbert Chitepo. Yeah, so it's a wide range. It shows that this thing has been happening from a long time ago. So like the first being Herbert Chitepo, 1975, and yeah, going all the way to 2011, Solomon Mujuru. Guys, don't miss this one. Okay, so let's talk about MP Edward Chindori Chininga. Okay, so MP Edward Chindori Chininga was member of the ruling ZANU-PF party, and he was a politician. He was deemed to be very intelligent, and that was discovered when he was pretty young. And he ended up getting a full scholarship to go and study in France. He studied in France, and then he also went to the US, where he met his wife, Linda Lewis, and they got married. All right. So when he came back to then independent Zimbabwe, he joined politics, and obviously he was a member of the ruling party. He was one of those people that would actually be relied on in terms of his critical thinking, and he was smart, he was intelligent. So he was one of those people that even the former president of Zimbabwe would actually rely on, but he fell out of favor with Robert Mugabe in 2011 after it was alleged that Chindori Chininga had actually leaked some very sensitive information to the opposition party, which was the Movement for Democratic Change. But before all this, he was Minister of Mines and Mining Development. He was MP for Gurube South. I mean, those are like, especially the ministry, the mines and mining development, that is a sensitive ministry, which he headed at one stage, which goes to show that actually at one stage he really was in good books with the old men, right? So anyway, 2011 he fell out of favor with the old men. He was very vocal. Not only was he intelligent, but he was very vocal, and people warned him several times that he had to stop, otherwise he was going to be silenced. But yeah, he just thought he was invincible and he could just speak out his mind. Then he was a chairman of a committee that was tasked with investigating the Zimbabwe diamond industry. Just before his death, he released a damning and very critical report about the Zimbabwe diamond industry. It fingered a lot of people. I mean, like powerful people. And again, he was warned by some people that he needs to slow down, but he wasn't going to have it. That was actually like the last straw that probably sent him to an early grave. He died at 53. That's an early grave, in my opinion. So anyway, after the release of that report, he didn't live long to see what that report would yield. Yeah. One day he is traveling. The next thing, his vehicle is veered off the road and it hits a couple of trees and he died. Just like that. Investigations showed that there were no skid marks on the road, suggesting somebody was trying to control the vehicle or anything. Probably we could say the brakes were not working. I don't know, but yeah, that's still a mystery. It's still a mystery, but again, it was ruled as an accidental death. It was a death resulting from an accident, and he was declared a Liberation War hero by his party, ZANU-PF. But guess what his name was by the time he died? He had been labeled the whistleblower, okay, because of the report that he composed concerning the Zimbabwe diamond industry. He was actually dubbed the whistleblower. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a mysterious death, in my opinion. That is one of those mysterious deaths that have happened on the roads of Zimbabwe. Yeah, Comrade Edward Chindori Chininga, born and raised in Guruwe South, which is in the north of Zimbabwe. So the next interesting person that I want to talk about is Herbert Wilshire Fumaindini Chitepo, commonly known as Herbert Chitepo. This man was born in 1923 in Watsomba district in Inyanga, in southern Rhodesia, which is what we now know as Zimbabwe. Okay, let's just fast forward. Let's forget about his childhood. Let's go to university already. He went to Fort Hare University, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree. And he was the first black barrister in southern Rhodesia. Very smart fella, right? Right. So anyway, he proceeded to join politics. He was in the ZAN political party, not ZANU-PF. No. That was ZAN. So ZAN was actually led by Ndabaningi Stole, and the vice president was Josiah Tongogara, and he was related to Edgar Tekere. He was married to Victoria Chitepo. Okay, so when they went into exile in Tanzania, or they went into training in Tanzania, and then he left and moved to Zambia. That was during the liberation struggle when the Zimbabweans were fighting for their independence. So he was living in exile in Zambia, and he had bodyguards. Like, yeah, he was now a big person in this political party, and yeah. One day he was actually going to work in the morning, and when he got into his Volkswagen and they were driving off, there was a bomb under his car and it went boom. Herbert Chitepo and Silas, one of his bodyguards, died on the spot. This bomb was so bad that it threw some of the pieces of the car on the roof. And then the second bodyguard actually sustained injuries. And this one was called, what was his name again? Okay, I think I'll insert his name somewhere. Not only that, but a neighbor died hours later from injuries sustained from the bomb. Okay, that was a powerful bomb, right? What did the ZAN do? ZAN just blamed Rhodesia military. They just assumed it was them who had eliminated or assassinated one of their own. Okay, because this happened in Lusaka, there was just no way that President Kenneth Kaunda was going to sit there and fold his arms. He actually did set up an inquiry which did investigations into the assassination of Herbert Chitepo. What came out was a very damning report which actually fingered infighting in ZAN. So it was concluded that it was ZAN that had eliminated thereon. All right. However, there were some investigations that were done that showed a different result. Okay, so a further investigation was done, and it revealed that in actual fact, it wasn't an issue of infighting or one person in the party trying to eliminate the other so that they could occupy their position, but it was actually the Rhodesia CIO led by Ken Flower. Okay, they were fingered as being the masterminders, or Ken Flower was actually fingered as the masterminder behind Herbert Chitepo's assassination. And it was believed that they planted evidence to make it look like it was about ZAN. It was one of the comrades who had killed this comrade. Yeah, that's how bad it was. So up to now, the truth of the matter is, there's another one that I actually read, another article that said Josiah Tongogara was fingered in the assassination. And another one said actually it was a British soldier who belonged to the British Air Service called Hugh Hind. He's the one who actually placed the bomb and did assassinated Herbert Chitepo. So like so many theories, right? So a lot of speculation about what happened to him. But the bottom line is we don't know. We don't know who killed him. We know he died in a bomb. He was assassinated. But who was the masterminder and why? We do not know. That's another mystery. Again, one mystery after another. Now let's talk about Josiah Magama Tongogara. He was born in 1938 in Rhodesia, what we now know as Zimbabwe, and he died in 1979 in a car accident in Mozambique. So how did this happen? Josiah Tongogara was one of the very powerful people in ZANU, and he was actually the commander of ZANLA, which was like a military wing, right? So he was very powerful and he was very influential. He was described as somebody who was ambitious, influential, and decisive. Okay, and because of that, he actually attended the Lancaster House conference as well, and he was described as probably the neutralizing figure in the house, because now he came in with the idea that he was totally in support of Mugabe's ZANU joining with Joshua Nkomo's ZAPU to form a government of national unity. Not only that, but he was actually regarded by many people as the most likely candidate for the first president of independent Zimbabwe, with Mugabe being the prime minister. So there was a bit of a rivalry there between Josiah Tongogara and Robert Mugabe. And also Mugabe was against the idea of making joining together with Joshua Nkomo, because he was saying that it's not fair for him to share power with people that were not really involved in the fighting for the freedom. It's like sharing your spoils with somebody who was not involved. But Tongogara was all about peace. He was all about, let's unite, let's build this country together, right? That was one area that they conflicted. The second area that they actually had tension between Tongogara and Mugabe was the issue of, he was favored by many. He was like everybody's favorite. Everybody saw him as presidential material, right? But here's another thing. Josiah Tongogara had a brother called Magama, and Magama was he was the, and he was, he occupied a very powerful position in the notorious Rhodesia Special Service or Special Force. But how is that possible that your brother is working with the opposition? And not only is he working with the opposition, but he was very powerful in the opposition. And at the same time, okay, not even the opposition, but the enemy. At this point, they were like enemies, right? It wasn't about opposition at all. So it was basically, his brother worked for Ian Smith, and he was working against Ian Smith. So, like, how was that possible? So there was a speculation that, is it possible that Josiah Tongogara was a Rhodesian plant? He was placed into ZANU by Rhodesia, or the Rhodesian forces, to kind of monitor and give them information about what is happening. This was also sort of then pushed even further when at the Lancaster House conference, Josiah Tongogara exchanged greetings with Ian Smith and even went on to ask about his family. How's wife? How's children? So people actually thought, okay, the pleasantries are just not, you're not being polite here. You actually know each other. So he was also suspected to be a spy by those that witnessed it. And he never hid the fact that he was interested in being the first president of a free Zimbabwe. Okay, so 6 days later, after the signing of the Lancaster House Agreement, Josiah was traveling from Maputo to Chimoy, and according to another Tungamirai, okay, Tungamirai was also part of the convoy that was coming from Maputo to Chimoy. So they were in different cars. Tungamirai was ahead and Josiah was behind. So while they were driving, Tungamirai said that he saw a stationary army vehicle by the roadside. It had no lights, it had no hazards, it had nothing. It was just there, but they were able to avoid it. And then he said, like, after driving for a while, he couldn't see the lights anymore, indicating that Josiah's vehicle was not coming. So he turned around and went back. And yeah, what he feared most had actually happened. He found Josiah's car had actually hit into the stationary army vehicle. He struggled to get Josiah Tongogara out of the vehicle, but he said when he was like lifting him in his hands, he let out a sigh and he died. So he literally died in Tungamirai's arms. Okay, now after he had died, obviously Mugabe announced that we've lost one of our comrades, and you know how the speeches go. This very emotional and very sensitive issues there. But yeah, so one of the okay, they said it was just an accident, right? ZANU said it was an accident. There was nothing suspicious about it. But one police officer from the Rhodesia police force who actually saw the body said there were 3 wounds on Tongogara's torso, which resembled gunshot wounds. His driver also died. Yeah, so it was actually said that they resembled gunshot wounds. Oh, he was actually from the British South African police. Yeah, and he said the wounds that he saw on Josiah's torso resembled gunshot wounds. That is 1. 2, the undertaker said there was no autopsy that was done. It was just ruled as death in an accident, and they just decided he was going to be buried. There was no autopsy that was done. Okay, but however, he I don't know. Did he die because of the accident, or did he die because of some gunshots? Okay. So anyway, he's highly celebrated in Zimbabwe. He was highly celebrated in Zimbabwe. Streets were named after him. And recently, I think it was in 2012 or so, it was sometime in I don't know which year that was, the military base, which was named the Josiah Magamba Tongogara something. Yeah, there is a military place that is named after him in Zimbabwe. And also yeah, there was a stamp that was done in his honor in 2005. Like, yeah, he's highly celebrated. He was highly celebrated because this man was really favored by a lot of people. Even ordinary citizens just loved him. They just loved how charismatic he was and how decisive he was and how he was preaching unity and unity and unity and unity. Oh yeah, so actually in 2017 in December, the King George Sixth Barracks, okay, and for the Zimbabwe National Army, was actually renamed to Josiah Magamba Tongogara Army Barracks. Yeah, that's the new name there, right there. So yeah, that's how much he has been honored. And because people actually loved this man, okay, his wife, unfortunately, she struggled after her husband died. She never got any money, you know, those benefits that the war veterans were getting and everything. She lived just a difficult life, and yeah, one of those things. But that's another death that was actually quite mysterious, of a Zimbabwean politician. Now, people back then speculated that Mugabe had him killed because he wasn't prepared to compromise. He wasn't prepared to be the prime minister while he becomes the president. He wasn't also prepared for this unity that this Tongogara kept preaching, that, you know, we need to have unity, we need to have unity, we need to build the country together. So he was a threat and he had to be eliminated. I don't know. It's all allegations. I don't know if it's true. Okay, another mysterious death of a politician in Zimbabwe. Next, let's talk about Christopher Ushewo-Kunze, commonly known as Chris Ushewo-Kunze. So he was an economist, a politician, and a lawyer in Zimbabwe. He was born in 1944 in Shurugwi, Midlands Province in Zimbabwe. He went to Ward Love Mission School as well as Goromonzi High School before he enrolled at the University of Rhodesia, now known as University of Zimbabwe, as well as University of Nyasaland, to study law. Okay, so while he was a student, he became a student leader and he became popular for organizing anti-government protests. Yeah, you know, the student union. He was actually a leader there, and because of that, he was expelled from the university as well as detained. He was detained at Gona Kudzingwa for a good 12 months. After the 12 months, he was released and he was put under police escort. So from a detention center, he was taken to the airport and he flew to Scotland under a British Council scholarship, where he enrolled at Edinburgh University to pursue his law degree. He qualified with his first degree in law, and then he went on to study his master's at London University. I actually believe these guys were super intelligent, and for some reason the government found a way of allowing them to pursue their studies. So yeah, there he was, and then he decided to come back to Africa. But when he came back to Africa, he didn't come straight to Zimbabwe. He came to Zambia, and he was a lecturer at a university in Zambia for some time. Joined Zimbabwe after independence and held various positions, including one where he actually ended up creating enemies. Yeah, he was a minister of Ministry of Industry. He was a minister in the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, because he was an economist, right? Like I said, he was an economist. And then he allegedly differed with Robert Mugabe on a number of policies, economic policies, and he spoke clearly about it. He didn't mince his words that he thought the country was going down and wrong policies were being implemented, and that did not go down well, allegedly. All right. Anyway, in 1994, when Chris had just had his fallout with the then president of Zimbabwe, Comrade Robert Mugabe, he was involved in a car accident when he was on his way to Harare from Kwabulawayo, and he died. Okay, so he died in a car crash. Apparently, again, his car veered off the road and hit a couple of trees, and he died on the spot. Does that sound familiar? That was Christopher Oshokunze, 1944 to 1994. Another mystery in the politics of Zimbabwe. So another politician who died in a road accident in Zimbabwe was Comrade Zororo Duri. Zororo Duri was born in 1953 in Nyazura, Manicaland province, and he died in 1996 on the 18th of April on the Harare-Mutare Road when he was coming from independence celebrations and he was going back home. In the accident claimed his life and the lives of two of his daughters. His wife and another daughter survived. Okay, so who was Zororo Duri? After being born in Manicaland, Zororo Duri went to Rukweza School. He went to Hartselle High School as well as St. Augustine's Mission. From there, he enrolled at the University of Zimbabwe to study to do a Bachelor of Science degree in physics, chemistry, mathematics. Whew, that's quite some degree, right? I believe he was quite a smart person. So anyway, while he was doing his studies at the University of Zimbabwe, in 1975, he and his friends decided to drop out of school and march to Mozambique to take part in the struggle for independence of Zimbabwe. He was trained in Mozambique, and after he had finished his training, he was deployed in the Gaza Strip. So the Gaza province, or the Gaza Strip. So the Gaza province was actually stretching from Wange National Park to Chimanimani, and it was really like a hot place in terms of the war there. The local people were known to be supporting the comrades that were fighting, and so much that Ian Smith's regime was offended and they started destroying the crops of the local people. Yeah, it was that bad. Okay, so post independence Zimbabwe, Zororo Duri came back, and he had actually risen quite a lot, in the army, or in the during the war. He had risen quite a lot. When he came back, he was now a member of the intelligence. He was part of the intelligence of the what can I say, the army. Yeah, he was part of the intelligence. So he went back to the University of Zimbabwe and finished his studies, and then he got a job in the president's office in relation to what he had started, right? He even went on to become to like be promoted in there. So he was a very intelligent person who was rising and rising and rising. Then there was a conflict. Zororo Duri was told not to contest the Manicaland province post for Member of Parliament against Kumbirai Kangai, and he defied that. He went ahead and he contested the by-elections, and he won against Kumbirai Kangai. That offended political bosses. That offended the political bosses, and they were not happy because Kumbirai Kangai was a darling. You don't compete with the darling. He was a darling in the eyes of the political bosses. So yeah, political bosses were actually offended by that, and he became a target. Allegedly, he became a target. I don't know how true it is, but I understand he became a target. So then, however, to get rid of him, or maybe to kind of derail people's thinking, he was appointed ambassador to Cuba. Ambassador of Zimbabwe to Cuba. So before he could actually go on his tour of duty, because before he could take up his position in 1996, he got involved in a car accident that claimed his life and the lives of his daughters. And he died. Of course, he was declared a national hero. Yeah, but that's yet another suspicious accident on the roads of Zimbabwe of a politician, because apparently he had gone against political bosses, allegedly. I don't know how far true these things are, you know. So that was Zororo Duri, born 1953 and died 1996 in Zimbabwe, on the roads of Zimbabwe. All right, so next let's talk about Moven Mahachi, commonly known as Moven Mahachi. So Moven Mahachi was born in 1948 in Rusape, and he died in 2001 on his way to Rusape again. Actually, he died along the Mutare Nyanga Road in 2001 in a car accident. That was barely 30 days after Border Gezi had died in almost similar circumstances and almost in a similar fashion, for lack of a better word. Okay, Moven Mahachi was actually married and he had 4 children. So there isn't much said about his childhood or what he did before he became actively involved in politics. Other than that, he actually studied at the University of South Africa, commonly known as UNISA. That's where he started. And also, what was he really known for? Weird. He was actually known for being a ZANU-PF member. Okay, but it is said that in 1974 to 1979, Moven Mahachi was actually incarcerated, and he was supposed to be a political prisoner, and he was supposed to be incarcerated for 15 years, but he served his term from 1974 to 1979. Okay. After that, from 1979 to 1980, he was a ZANU-PF provincial administrator for Manicaland, which was his home, right? Remember, he was born in Rusape. His home is in Manicaland in Zimbabwe. And then, at one stage of his life, like, he just rose through the ranks in ZANU-PF and in the government. He served quite a number of positions. He served as the Minister of Lands and Rural Development. He served as a member of the House of Assembly for Manicaland Province. He served as the Minister of Home Affairs. And by the time he died, he was the Minister of Defense. Now, I need you to remember something. He died in 2001. That was the time when people were going to DRC. You know, the army was in DRC for peacekeeping mission, and a lot of looting was done. Okay, a lot of looting was done in DRC. Before we even talk about DRC, let's talk about him being in parliament and being from Manicaland, and the army bosses and most of the people that were in the parliament, not just the parliament, but also the people that were in the army. He was now the army boss, but they were generals, they were all these other people in the army who were mostly Kore, Karanga, Zezuru. And he was Manyika. Okay, so he was like an outsider. And when this DRC peacekeeping mission started, a lot of people went to DRC, and a lot of people, I would call them political bosses, benefited from this war in DRC because they were looting from DRC, allegedly. They were taking diamonds from DRC, and they were so keen on keeping the Zimbabwean army there so that they have a reason to go in and out of this country under the pretext of checking on the army, under the pretext of checking on our guys, on our girls, and but in actual fact they were going in to loot. And Moven Mahachi actually spoke against it, allegedly. He spoke about it, he spoke against it, and it didn't go well. It didn't go down well with the party bosses, including the president. Okay, so because he rubbed some people off the wrong way by speaking against the looting that was happening in DRC, it's said that he even proposed that the army should be withdrawn and people should stop going to this DRC and looting resources from DRC, because after the civil war or after the war is settled, what's DRC going to have in order to build their country? They will have nothing. So let's stop looting. Let's just stop the looting. Let's leave them. Let's, help them keep the peace, get their peace back, and then they can build their country. They still have their resources. But no, that didn't go down well with some people. Yeah. And then he died on the road in an accident. He was apparently in a Range Rover or something, some big car, and it veered off the road, hit a couple of trees, and he died. There were no skid marks. There was nothing. Yeah, that was in 2001, barely 30 days after Border Gezi had passed on in just similar circumstances. I don't know, guys, was this an accident or was it choreographed? Again, that's another mysterious death on the roads of Zimbabwe of a politician, a very powerful politician who at the time was believed to have rubbed some political bosses the wrong way. Moven Mahachi, 1948 to 2001. So the next person that I want to talk about is Paul Armstrong Gunda. Okay, so Paul Armstrong Gunda died in 2007 at the age of 62. Okay, no, actually aged 64. He died in 2007, aged 64. So who was Paul Armstrong Gunda? Commonly known as Paul Gunda, actually. There wasn't much that I could find about where he was born, where he grew up, where he studied and all. But I can tell you about his career in the army of Zimbabwe. So he was actually the brigadier general in the defense. He was a brigadier general in the Zimbabwe Defense Forces and commander. He is a commander of one brigadier, one brigade in Bulawayo. One brigade. Okay, he was a commander at one brigade in Bulawayo. All right. How did he die? Where did he die? He died in 2007 at a railroad crossing in Marondera. That's along the Harare-Mutare Road. So it was just near Watershed College. And yeah, it is believed, it is said that his car developed a problem while it was right at the intersection of a railroad crossing. It developed a problem, and then there was a train coming, a goods train that was coming and sounding an alarm and everything, and it hit the car. So he died. That's how he died, right? But now his wife said when she looked at the car wreck, it didn't look so damaged that it would actually kill somebody. And also she noticed that he had a severe back injury, suggesting that he probably got the injury before this accident happened. Okay. Now, there was an interesting thing that also happened in 2014. An army captain by the name of Albert Matapo, right, was released from Chikurubi Maximum Prison. He had been serving a term for attempting to escape, right. He had been detained because the intelligence suspected him of trying to topple President Robert Mugabe, and they thought he was linked to Paul Gunda. Now you understand. Do you understand Paul Gunda's crime? Paul Gunda's crime was that he was a part of a failed coup to get rid of Mugabe. That was his crime. So he had to pay with his own life. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, so when Matapo was released, he did an exclusive interview where he revealed that when he was captured based on this attempted coup, they kept asking him about Paul Gunda. They asked him about a couple of other guys that all died. Some MDC member, some blah, 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 some blah, blah, blah. These people all died. Okay, while he was in custody. So he was like trying to understand, why are you asking me about these people? I don't know them. But he said after he heard that these people died, he now understood why. It was because they were all said to be part of the coup team. Okay, yeah. So he gave an exclusive where he actually said he did not believe that Paul's death was as a result of an accident, but he believes that he was assassinated because they suspected that he was trying to topple Mugabe. Ha! Okay, now here is what an eyewitness said about this accident. So some random eyewitness said this is their encounter. They said they were standing about 50 meters away from the intersection, and they could hear that the goods train was coming, and they saw a car slow down, like what cars would normally do at an intersection. They slow down, they stop, the train passes, and they proceed. But this one did not totally stop before the intersection. Rather, this car moved right into the intersection, and it was parked, or it was stopped at 90 degrees. And then this eyewitness says just a couple of seconds before the train reached the car, somebody rolled out of the car and this car was hit. The train did not stop. The train proceeded. This car was hit and pushed out of the intersection. Okay, and then later people came to the scene of the accident to attend, and they found that Paul Armstrong Gunda was in the car and he had died. The person who rolled out of the vehicle vanished into thin air. They just vanished into the dark. They didn't see who it was, but they said somebody actually rolled out of the car and just before it was hit. Okay. Also, the wife, okay, like I said before, she said the way the car was damaged, it wasn't going to result in somebody's death. But yeah, so they set up an inquiry. An inquiry was set up by it was done under the Defense Force, and they said the outcome was that there was no foul play. This was a real accident. What were you expecting again? What kind of results were we expecting? Of course, those were the results that we're expecting. No foul play. This was an accident. Let's take you to the National Shrine and bury you. Yes, he was buried at the National Shrine. He was declared a national hero. And they took him to the National Shrine, and they did very, very powerful, very moving, very beautiful speeches about him. That was Paul Armstrong Gunda, another politician, another influential person in the politics of Zimbabwe, who died under mysterious circumstances on the roads of Zimbabwe. Okay, let's talk about another interesting character. Elliot Manyika. Elliot Manyika, the Nora singer. Yeah, if you were probably born in 2000, you don't know that song, but yeah, that was Elliot Manyika. Nora, Nora, Nora. That's the Elliot Manyika. So Elliot Manyika was born in Chiweshe in 1955, and he attended the local schools in his home. That's Madombwe and Bare. Then he proceeded to Kutama College, and then he went to, for his college, for his tertiary education, he actually went to Britain, where he finally graduated with a master's degree in political studies, right? And then he came back to Zimbabwe. He joined ZANU-PF Youth League in 1982 together with his friend Boda Gezi Matsibaba. All right, so he rose through the ranks. Like, yeah, he was just rising through the ranks. At one stage he was the youth chairman, and until he actually became actively involved so much that he was now taking part in the government. Okay, he worked in the Ministry of Local Government and National Housing and Women's Affairs, and then he was also appointed Minister of Youth Development, Gender and Employment Creation, and again he was appointed a minister without portfolio. Right, so he was basically rising through the ranks, and then in 2008, at the age of 53, he died in a car accident. He was coming from, he was traveling to Gwanda from Bulawayo. So what was happening in Gwanda? It is said that he was going to do some, he was going to attend some meeting. Okay, this meeting was supposed to be a restructuring a mission that could upset the leadership ambitions of so many top officials. He was traveling in his capacity as the National Commissar, right? He was now the National Commissar. So he was going there to do some restructuring. And this restructuring was going to affect some political party bosses. And they were not going to have that. No, they were not. So his Mercedes-Benz that he was traveling in veered off the road and hit a couple of trees, and he died. Does that even sound familiar? No, I don't think it does. I think this is the first time I'm hearing that. Okay, so anyway, after he died, one of his relatives actually said he had been receiving anonymous death threats, but he didn't take them seriously. He thought it was just a prank. And also they took one of the tires from his Benz and sent it to South Africa for forensic investigation, and it was ruled out that it was just an accident. Okay, it was just an accident, and he died. Of course, he was declared a national hero. What do you think? He was declared a national hero, and he was buried at the National Shrine. That's another influential person, another politician of Zimbabwe who died on the roads of Zimbabwe in a mysterious way. And while we are talking about Elliot Manyika, we might as well bring in Boda Gezi. I think I've done a video on Boda Gezi and about how he died. He's also one of those people that died on the roads of Zimbabwe mysteriously. And yeah, his crime, I don't remember, what was Boda Gezi's crime again? Why was he? Oh yeah, he was becoming too powerful and too influential, and he was upsetting political bosses and party bosses, and they had to shut him up, allegedly. Come on, guys. All of these things have not been proven. Okay, these are just theories, because people keep seeing these things happening, and people are actually now at a point where they are just saying, when we hear that somebody's died in an accident, we just think, oh, that's a statistic. When a ZANU-PF person dies in an accident, especially during where there's a lot of campaigns, and when there's stuff happening, we always think, okay, that's a statistic. They know what they've done to one of their own. So Gezi, Elliot Manyika died under almost the same circumstances and almost the similar ways, and yeah, 2 more people that lost their lives on the roads of Zimbabwe under mysterious circumstances. Now let's talk about the mother of all mysteries, the death of Solomon Mujuru, also known as Rex Nongo. So he was the husband to the former Vice President Joyce Mujuru, and he died in a fire at his farm in Beatrice. Now, after his death, Joyce Mujuru was interviewed about what was happening before and after his death, and she actually says the last time she saw him, he had requested that she applies oil on his back. She said generally he had a very rough skin, but on that particular day he took very long in the bathroom, such that when he came out his skin was really soft and very clear, and he requested that she applied oil on his back, which she did. And she said she was grumpy because she was running late, she wanted to go to work, but she did it anyway because that was her husband, right? So in retro, she was now thinking, okay, since when people die and their bodies are washed and then they get oiled and then they get clothed with clean clothes and then they get buried, since she was not going to be able to do that because he was burnt, maybe that was actually what she did right there. She applied that oil for him to be like preparing for his death. Okay, so anyway, the story of Solomon Mujuru is one that actually left a lot of tangs working, because he is said to have left his home in Harare and he spent some time watching the cricket. There was a cricket match going on there. He spent time there watching cricket and blah blah blah. A lot happened, and then he came back home to the Harare house. He was looking for certain keys that he couldn't find. He kept looking for those keys, but apparently he never got the keys. But anyway, he decided to go to the farm. On his way to the farm, he stopped at some hotel that he liked to go and drink, and the bartender, they said usually he would drink a lot, but on that particular day he took like 4 shots because he said he had to get up early. He had a trip to Bedbridge the following day, so he didn't want to drink a lot. So the bartender said around 7 he actually left and drove off to his farm. When he got to the farm, he passed the first security, the second security. The first security was like private security, and then the second post was actually manned by the ZRP VIP section. So he was protected by the ZRP, the Zimbabwe Republic Police. And then when he got to his house, he found that the house was locked. He drove to his maid or housekeeper's house in the same farm area, probably around the compound area where the workers are staying, and he got the keys to the house. So he went in, and yeah, that was basically that. But it is said that around 3 or so in the morning there was a huge fire, and fire brigade was called. Obviously they couldn't show up. If they did, they didn't have water. Yeah. So it was basically his bedroom that was badly burned, and one person said when they got there they saw a blue flame, and this blue flame is not associated with ordinary flame. It's actually associated with petrol. So there were assumptions that the way this fire was so furious, it couldn't have been just fire from a candle. There had to be a catalyst at work. Anyway, he was burnt. Okay, and he died. That's weird. The man was not drunk, but he was burnt, and yeah, beyond recognition. And basically they said forensic investigations had to be conducted by an independent board, but yeah, that was never done. And then post-mortem was done, and it was ruled out as like he died from the fire, probably inhaled smoke or something. Then after he was buried, his family requested that they exhume his body, his remains, and send them to South Africa for post-mortem again, because they were not satisfied with what was said. But obviously that was declined. They could not do it. The government would not let them exhume the remains. Why? I mean, this is their person. Let them do what they want. But anyway, they were not allowed to do it. But I was just trying to like cut the story short. But yeah, a lot actually happened, and it made people think probably this man was dead before the house was set alight, or this man was intoxicated before the house was set on fire. And definitely this fire was not as a result of a candle. There had to be more. Something else must have happened. It's still a mystery. Like, honestly, it still is a mystery. So that's another mysterious death in Zimbabwe of a very influential person. So what was his crime? If indeed he was probably assassinated, what could have been his crime? His crime was very simple. With him alive, his wife was very powerful, and his wife stood a chance of being the president of the country because he was that influential. He was that powerful. He was the one person that everybody was scared of, including army generals, including the president. He was the kind of person who called shots, and they had to be observed. Like when he says jump, all they had to say was, how high? So they had to get rid of him. I don't know if it's true, allegedly. Then here is another weird thing that actually, made the rounds during that time. So somebody said they saw him on a plane to some country, Cuba or something, right? People actually believe, there are a portion of the people that actually believe that this man did not die. This man was tipped off that they were planning to assassinate him, and he was whisked away. And they took like a homeless person's body and just burnt it in there. Or they took a dead body from a mortuary in a hospital, somebody that hadn't been claimed by relatives, and they just burnt that there. But otherwise, the general is alive and kicking somewhere. If that's true, woo, that is so cruel. And his wife, like that woman mourned, that woman was heartbroken, and the children. Oh, I don't know, but if that's true, fine. It's okay that he's alive, but what he put his family through. Yeah, that's actually another theory that has been doing the rounds, that the general is alive. The general was saved by his people who knew about the plot. He was tipped off by his close people. They told him that, nah, these guys are planning on assassinating you. So yeah, as you can actually see, after his death, Joyce Mujuru was in power for a little while, but when they wanted her out, they kicked her out like yesterday's trash. And nobody was there to protect her because she buried her husband, right? That was probably what they wanted, that they could just toss it around. They could just toss it out like stale bread. And there was nobody to protect it, and there was nobody that they were afraid of. I honestly hope that the general is alive. That's just my hope. Like, I don't like people to die. I honestly hope that general is alive. But yeah, if he's not, well, may his soul continue to rest in peace. And yeah, I mean, it looks like Mujuru has actually managed to salvage herself, and like she's got her life back on track somehow. And somehow she survived, and she's doing fine. But that's another mysterious death that actually happened in the country of Zimbabwe, and we still don't have answers as to what really happened there. It's still a mystery to date. This thing happened a long time ago. It happened in 2011, so that's about 10 years ago, and we still don't have the answers. All right, so those are the stories that I had for this particular video. Just some mysterious things, some mysterious deaths that have happened in our beautiful country of Zimbabwe. Of course, some of them could have been genuine accidents, but because we are so used to talking, you know, we will talk. Yeah, so yeah, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts about these deaths? Do you think they were genuinely accidents, or some things could have been manipulated? And also, what do you think about the person who said he saw a car being driven and being left at the intersection of a railroad crossing, and somebody just jumped out of the car and left the car to be hit by the train? I don't know, you know. Anyway, comment down below what you think, and if there's anybody else that you know who has died under mysterious circumstances, you can just tell us, and yeah, we'll look into that and see what people are saying about that person's death. But what I know is for a fact, there was a protest in Harare where people were protesting that, okay, these deaths have gone out of hand, you need to stop, you need to stop. So now of late I haven't been hearing them. Probably they got the message that these deaths need to stop. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please do subscribe, do comment, do like, do share. I like to hear from you. Wherever you are watching from, be blessed, and please stay safe. There is COVID out there, and we don't want to keep losing lives. Here where I am, things are kind of stable, but yeah, we're being very cautious. We are taking all the necessary precautions. Please do the same. Keep yourselves and your families safe. And yeah, be blessed. Thank you for watching.